Welcome into Snow The Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, the Players Podcast, the Prognosticators Podcast, the Pedialyte Podcast, the only Flyers podcast. And of course, you know, there are some out there who acknowledge that we are the only Flyers podcast, and there are some people who call us
silly podcast.
And we're here, and we're excited. And why are we excited? Because the Flyers, for the first time in about 2 years, finally have a captain on the team. A new player has been awarded an A as well. And could that be a sign, a signal that one of them is on the way out? We're going to get into all that and more. Flyers also had a nice performance in Toronto last night, so we're going to get to that as well. But before we do, I want to introduce the men who are here. They're absolute beauts, and I put them in the middle. Bundy is in the middle. Ant is on the side. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. I got a new word for you, Russ, for the open.
Yeah.
We got to be the procrastinators podcast since
because
we're never on time because of you. Yeah. Procrastinators podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So new P word for you.
Ryan Ingrick is already very upset that Bundy's in the middle. Should we? You never realize how much Alice SanFilippo. You never realize how much people get used to seeing everybody in a certain spot. All right, here. There you go, guys.
Okay. There we go.
I hope that helps everybody.
Now we're all good. Now we're
there we
fine.
go. I hope that helps everybody return to a bit of normalcy here in these unprecedented times. So,
we got somebody from the University of Helsinki history coffee room today. I mean, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So how
6
we doing,
hours
guys?
ahead.
It's great.
Yeah.
No, it was just enjoyed the game last night. I thought that they.
Why is Ant yellow? Bundy, do you see that? He just got jaundice.
I think it's the lighting in the room, to be honest with you.
It was fine until just now. Now you're half Oompa Loompa.
It's like the same color as his water bottles there at the games.
Yeah, there we go. Now you're close enough. Let's.
There
oh,
it is.
God.
There it is.
Ant, you gotta hydrate. Holy
It's
hell!
orange today.
That's even worse. You should go to the hospital immediately.
What do you got in that bottle, buddy?
No, I thought that the Flyers played a pretty good game last night, all told. You take out that stretch in the second period where they got Austin Matthews. I thought that they actually played a pretty strong game against a team that needs, Toronto needs to win games too, because they had fallen in the standings and they were in a wild card spot. And I thought the Flyers played well. I mean, really, on the whole. I don't know. I don't know about you, Bundy. I thought if you kind of got the same feeling, even though you lose the game and you lose it in overtime, you still get a point. It's one of those games where you go, yeah, that's a good point. That's a hard-earned point.
Yeah, I'll absolutely take the point. Good fight in the team to come back. I'm trying to think is taking some points off of last night's game. So the Flyers, I thought the first half, I mean, they earned the 1-0 lead. They held on to it, and then the Austin Matthews show took over in the second period, and nobody could defend him. Like, nobody could individually stop him. Then the third period takes over, and again, I think the good thing watching this team is when you see them, they don't quit. There's teams in the past with a lot of these same guys that would have just mailed that game in last night, and Toronto would have gotten a 4-1 lead. They almost did have a 4-1 lead on a power play where they had the empty net. I think the Flyers, some players in front had a really good stick and got the puck out. But Delorier had that fight after Cam York got absolutely rocked, which was a great hit. I mean, it really was. Those are the hits you can't remove from the game of hockey. There still has to be a price to pay to some degree to keep your head up. But that kind of changed things a little bit for the Flyers. They got a little bit of life under them late. Power play, one power play after another for Toronto, or for the Flyers, and Toronto with a little marching band to the penalty box gave the Flyers some offensive life. The one thing in overtime, which is interesting, the Flyers never touched the puck one time in the overtime. They never had possession for a second of that overtime last night. You can see the game with the high-end skill last night. Like the Flyers really, you could see like Toronto with a one guy like that can really take over with time and space on the ice. I'll take the point. I thought it was a good start for the Flyers, and then Toronto absolutely took over the game till about the 10-minute mark of the third. I don't think the Flyers had a shot on goal for almost 30 minutes, maybe. When you add the numbers up from the end of the first right through the third, I mean, they went a big span without shots. I didn't love their game last night, Anthony. I thought it was okay. I thought they came back late, but Toronto's just okay. Like, I mean, they got a great player in Matthews and some skill, but I mean, I don't know how they're not going to. I'd play them in a second in the playoffs if I were the Flyers. Like, I wouldn't be. You don't have to deal with the skill. You don't like to with a guy like Matthews, but like if you're the Flyers right now and you think you're good, you're not happy with the loss last night. Like even coming back, because I don't think Toronto's any good. So I mean, I just don't.
No, that's fine. That's a fair point. I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of the opponent, I just think when you look at the way that if regardless of the opponent, if you look at the game that the Flyers played, I think that just that stretch in the second period where they give up all the goals to Matthews, that's the only time in the game where I kind of felt like, yeah, it was snowballing on them a little bit. Other than that, I felt that they actually controlled the game. I thought they played the game that they wanted to play. Otherwise, you look at it, I felt that they had two bad changes. The one on the one Matthews goal and then the other one in overtime. I felt like both changes were they were trying to get guys off the ice at the wrong time, and it created opportunities for the Maple Leafs. And then, of course, they score the game winner in overtime the same way. But otherwise, I really did like I liked the way that they still controlled and dictated the way the game was being played. And I'll tell you, that third line, which you wouldn't think that those guys would be third liners in the NHL, but they've been playing well together. Paling, Hathaway, and Cates usually would be a fourth line, right? But they're playing as the Flyers' third line. They've been really good, and they kind of got the Flyers back in the game. Getting that second goal that kind of changed things there in the third period. I thought that they had a strong game the entire game. So you're getting contributions from guys that aren't like here are the guys we need to lean on every game, and they're going to be the ones that come through. I think that when you get the games that you're getting from those players as well, that's a good sign. Again, that's a really good sign for when you're playing against teams, night in and night out. If you get to the playoffs and you have to play the same team over and over again, they're going to try and take away your best players. So you need guys further down your lineup to do things if you're going to win a series or win a game and then win a series. Those guys are going to have to play well. And boy, I think those guys have been playing well together for a few games now.
They have, yeah. There's no doubt about it. The one thing last night that's evident too when you just watching the game a little bit in the second period with Matthews. This is why it's so important that you get guys that can handle that kind of a player, right? Like some of the defensive stuff last night, I'm just kind of sipping by some of the stuff here, watching through some of the goals last night. And the third Matthews goal, actually two of them, I'm not sure why Sanheim, if you watch the third goal, he goes down and puts his stick down flat in front of him. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what he was doing. Like the defensive play to make is to put your stick out, straight out onto the puck, or get right in front of to block the shot. I'm just watching a guy like that with Matthews shoot. He is so unbelievable at finding that open seam to get the shot off. But at the same time here, just rewatching it, you got to get sometimes either got to get his body in the play or get his stick down on the ice. And then that puck will rise the stick and go up into the netting behind the glass every time. So that you can't allow that shot to get off. But also Ursan, they really seem to pick off, looks like about 2 or 3 feet off the ground on his blocker side. So actually his glove side, it seems to be where they really go. I'm sorry, glove side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There does seem to be a favoring of shooting on his glove side. I've noticed that, and because it was funny. That's why when I talked to him in the locker room the other night, and I asked him about being flashy with the glove saves, there were some shots that were on the glove side. And that's when he said, sometimes you get a little sassy, right? As a goalie, and he was feeling just having some fun by saying that. But at the same time, you could see that teams are targeting that side of the net against him. So there must be something that they're seeing on film that tells them that that's probably a weaker spot for him. That said, he's not getting beat a ton there, but it's evident that that's where teams are trying to shoot
Three
Yeah.
goals last night were all scored about 3 feet off the ice on the glove hand side. All 3 goals. And then the overtime not, but I'm talking about the 3 regulation goals.
Yeah. And that could just be Matthews is just that good, right? I mean, it could just well be. I mean, the guy's got 46 goals now or whatever it is, which is
he's got the Cy Young of hockey, Anthony, we call it, right? He's got like 46 goals and 15 assists.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, but pretty incredible player. But still, I mean, it's it's something that obviously Erson's got some stuff to work on, and that's probably part of it, and that's okay. I mean, that's all. You see now. What you'll want to see is how much does he and Kim Delabaugh, the goalie coach, actually start fixing that or finding that and say, okay, look, teams are going there. We're seeing that. Let's identify what the issue is and see if we can fix it. And so like that, just like a hitter, you want to make a baseball reference since we're in spring training mode at this point. Just like a hitter against a pitcher, right? Pitchers know where the holes are in a swing of a batter. So a batter then has to work on fixing that so that the pitchers can't, attack that spot. In that same vein, Sam Erson's got to work on fixing the spots so that guys don't shoot for the same spot over and over again and make them look for something else.
It's all good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
like that for a 10-minute overview there, Russ, while you're doing whatever you're doing on your side.
We'll take the good point, though, and I mean, again, it's hard to come back, and the Flyers did find a way to do it. Toronto, I mean, that's a dream team to play in the playoffs. Like I know they have Matthews, but again, if you get a good pair and you're able to shut them down, a team can beat those players.
Yeah, I mean they don't have
power play. Yeah.
They don't have good goaltending. I know they were missing Morgan Rielly, but their defense isn't great, right? I mean, so it's a team that likes to play. They like to play that north-south style as well, but they don't really have the game in their own end. That the Flyers are much more defensively sound team in their own end, and they block a ton of shots, whereas the Toronto is not that. And so, yes, of course, this Maple Leafs team is not built for the playoffs. If they get in, they're going to be playing either Florida, Boston, or the Rangers, and I don't think that they can beat any one of them in a 7-game series.
Well, they have to play. I mean, they're going to have to play. Right. Okay. I'm just saying if they finish 2 or 3 in that division, right? That's
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And then if they fall to the wild card, they're going to end up playing the Rangers. And so I don't think that they can.
They can beat the Rangers.
I don't think they can beat any of them. So
they can. Listen, Anthony. You make your way into the playoffs, and anything can happen. That's what somebody on this show has always told me. You just have to get in.
Just get in.
Just have to get in.
Just get in.
Yep.
I mean, how do you?
Before we move on, because there's a really big story that happened around this team, I want to make sure. Oh, this is good. Allison on YouTube. Girls are home from school today. They're up watching Snow the Goalie, waiting for the Bundy bomb.
Coach is like, the girls are 3 and 5, and they're just sitting here waiting anxiously to hear it.
That's great parenting.
It'll happen.
Parenting.
Allison is among the top fans that we have because she's still running that spreadsheet with 126 people, I think, who have participated in the predictions. So she's got this big old spreadsheet that she's been managing, and she's among the best of us, which is awesome. You know what else is awesome, guys? That, of course, is our friends over at Pack Horse Moving. Now, listen, you don't have to make moving hard. Moving itself can be stressful, it can be difficult, it can honestly be annoying, it can be a total time suck. But Pack Horse Moving makes everything easier. They will make your entire move a seamless process. They're very professional. They're actually pretty funny. The guys who moved us a couple of years ago were really funny. They kept it light. They made moving a breeze. If you head over to packhorsemoving.com/snowthegoalie, you'll see our promo code SNOW. And when you set up your move, either online or by phone, give them the promo code SNOW. Let them know that you heard about us or about them through Snow the Goalie. And you'll get $77 off of your next move. No matter what size, you get $77 off your move. But Russ, I'm not looking to move, but my child is. Can they use the promo code SNOW? They sure can. Hey, Russ, I saw somebody in a random community page. You're from Phoenixville when, or you're from Swarthmore when. Can I tell them to use promo code SNOW? You sure can, because you heard about Pack Horse Moving through Snow the Goalie, and now they can hear about Pack Horse Moving through Snow the Goalie. So again, use promo code SNOW, get $77 off your next move. They have offices in Norristown, Pennsylvania, Burlington, New Jersey, and Wilmington, Delaware, proudly serving the tri-state area, and coming soon to Georgia. So if you're down south looking to come back because you're saying, you know what, the orange and black, they're getting me so excited, I have to leave the south, I'm coming back up. I'm going to buy season tickets for next year.
We had a hello from Atlanta this morning. Someone checked in from Atlanta. You put it up on the screen. I forget who it was.
I don't remember who it was, but if you're in Atlanta and you're looking to move, Pack Horse Moving, use the promo code SNOW. I think the funniest thing would be if when I talk to Ryan from Pack Horse Moving at some point here in the next week or two, it'd be really funny if he's like, yeah, we got a random person signed up in Georgia. It's like, it's the Only Flyers podcast. So
right.
Anyway, a big thank you. And I like this. Eric H. Traded at the trade deadline. Call Pack Horse Moving.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So there you go.
Yes.
It's all great. So $77 off. Use promo code SNOW. Joe Papel asks, are they a silly moving company? They can be a little bit silly, and that's what makes moving with Pack Horse such a breeze. So, guys, there was another thing that happened, obviously, and that is that the Flyers finally named a captain. Now, it's interesting because if we go back even a year, if we go back a few months, the constant thing that we were told, and that the media were told, and that the fans were told, is that there would be no captain on this team, that the head coach had no interest in naming a captain. They didn't feel the need to name a captain, but then, well, they went and they named the captain. So Sean Couturier is named captain of the team. In a corresponding move, Travis Konecny gets an A on the sweater. So they have their new leadership crew. Scott Laughton keeps his A. We're going to talk about Scott Laughton here and his future in a second. But I just wanted to get your initial reaction to seeing Sean Couturier get named captain.
Was there another option in your mind, Bundy? I don't think so.
Yeah. You know what?
He's close, but no.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting when you look at the whole process of how they got here? It was Sean Couturier that was doing the audition for that job for the whole year, and they probably wanted to make sure that he was healthy. TK absolutely deserved an A, but Coots is the C. That was a great choice and quite an easy one. It was a no-brainer, and again, somebody asked a good question here. What's it like to have a guy like, Coots as a captain? Is he a good choice? And he is for me, especially having a coach like this. I mean, to have not had a buffer for almost 2 years for any player under this kind of tutelage is very difficult, to not have someone to roll something off of. Maybe Laughton was that guy, but it's really something when you have a guy with a C on your jersey. Mm-hmm. And again, I do think that there was the right call, to take time to find a leader. But I mean, it was the guys that we would have suspected anyway. It wasn't like any great reveal. Like it wasn't, like some fucking genius created it all and said, "Oh my God, look at we've evaluated this, and this is the next John Rambo here, leading the platoon." It's not. It was Coots all along. It was an audition. Nobody needed to fucking overthink this. Right call, great play. He'll be a great captain.
There it is, ladies and gents, the Bundy bomb.
The girls just celebrated in Allison's house.
There you go. That's good. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Ant, this felt like the right call. This is the guy that I think we've long thought was going to be the captain. Part of me thinks that, and I tweeted this yesterday, but part of me thinks that a big part of the reason that he wasn't made the captain was because Tortorella wanted to see if Couturier could return to form. You don't want to put the C on a guy and then he's out. So you've gotten this far into the season. He's remained relatively healthy. And so now he's proven that not only can he stay healthy-ish, but also he looks similar to the two-way forward that you thought he would be.
Yeah.
I to think that might be part of it.
Yeah, it's certainly part of it. There's no doubt it's part of it. But I'll tell you that I think that the timing of this whole thing is related to the fact that the team is making a push for the playoffs. If this team was not a playoff team and out of it, they wouldn't have named the captain when they did. They would have waited. they certainly would have waited. I think that the fact that they're there and they're believing in themselves and they're pushing for this playoff spot now, they felt that this was a time to have somebody in that position, because they feel like that's something you need to have for the postseason, right? So I think that's why the timing is what it is. And look, we talk about TK. TK is certainly a guy that has ramped up his game, and he's an emotional leader, right? So like he definitely deserves an A. The only other guy that I felt all along, and I've wrote it 3 years ago, that could be captain material is Laughton. But the fact of the matter is that I'm not convinced that Laughton is here long term. So I think when you look at the comparison between the two, right? If you feel like it's a apples to apples kind of situation where you could go with either guy, the difference is Couturier is under contract for several more years. He's going to be here. He's going to be part of this team. Scott Laughton, there's a chance that he's not. There's a chance he is, but there's a chance that he's not. And so therefore, between the two, you lean more towards Couturier. And I think that that's really how that is determined. I don't think that there was really any other question.
There's an interesting question here from Eric Berkey on YouTube. Who would get the other A if Laughton is traded? Would it be Sealer? Bundy, were you surprised? And I want you to kind of put on the old player hat here, but it doesn't seem the most common thing in the world to have all three of the guys in the leadership crew be forwards. Like, there no representative on the blue line. Are you surprised that they opted not to go that way? Do you think that that's where this could head if Laughton is traded? Like, would we expect there to be a defenseman named to it, or do you just leave it as one captain and one A?
Well, that wouldn't really be what the process was, right? I mean, that's why they just waited 2 years to find the right guys. So, is it automatically a defenseman gets it? Or the next best, guy? I mean, I don't know if Sanheim is that guy. I have no idea. That's where the coaches and management figure it out. I'm not around him enough in a day. But why does it automatically have to be a defenseman? I mean, I know if you're looking at term and years, it makes sense, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Is someone's going to get the A, or they'll just leave it as it is for the rest of the year. If Laughton gets moved, it'll just be TK. I mean, they went 1A for 2 years. What's it matter now if you got it 1C and 1A? You know what I mean? Like at this point, it kind of looks like it just looks odd if you do it that way. I don't know. The right move was made. They have 2 assistants in place. They have a captain. That looks like what you're heading into the trade deadline with, and whatever happens with with Scotty will happen, and that's the way it will be. I like Hathaway too. That's another good guy. Like you say, talk about guys that have seen, and there are teams like, that don't necessarily have their like all-star superstar player as the captain. And there are guys that they're Hathaway. I don't know. I think there's other guys, and I think it's important to know that. I'm sure that the coaching staff and management have a good handle on who would deserve another A, who would get it.
Okay. There was something very interesting that happened yesterday, and I wanted to get to this. I think it would be remiss if we didn't have a moment to talk about this. But John Tortorella met with the media yesterday.
Are we going to skip over the fact that Couturier got slashed in the game?
Yeah, we'll come back to it. We're going to come back to it
okay.
because we're talking about the leadership crew right now.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a thing that happened yesterday. So John Tortorella spoke to the media, the assembled media, and he was asked some questions about the decisions that the team made with the leadership core. And I thought that the way that he started this availability was interesting. It was notable. So I want people to hear what John Tortorella said first. What's the first thing out of his mouth? Just listen.
John, obviously the big news yesterday was Sean Couturier being named captain. You were pretty steadfast early on that you didn't want to name a captain. I guess what changed and what made him the choice?
Well, I thought, I think our room has grown as we started the year, and we subtracted last summer in order to get our room in order. It's grown, and I think it's time that we added to the leadership group. And Sean's handled himself very well since he's come back. I think he's very well respected in the room, and that's the choice. I think TK has brought a different level of game and attitude towards us. I think he deserves being part of that group with the letters. That's not the whole leadership group. There are other people, but as far as the letters are concerned, we feel comfortable with these three.
Just a sloppy.
All right, so I thought that was a little bit notable because while he does talk about the importance, and he does eventually get on to talking about how Couturier was a total pain in his ass last year, wanting to play, which was a good line, and about Konecny's maturity and improving. I thought all that was great. But the first thing that he says to the media is that we needed to clean up the locker room, and we had to do that by subtraction. I thought that was interesting because they obviously did some wholesale changes. They didn't get rid of every guy who was on the team last year. So I just thought that was a very interesting remark. So then I started thinking about, well, who is it that they removed from last year's team? And so here are some notable names that were moved last year. They removed Kevin Hayes. They removed Tony DeAngelo. They removed Ivan Provorov, James Van Riemsdyk. They removed Brown, Lemieux, Braun, Bellows, and McEwen. Now, I don't know which guys we're talking about here as being addition by subtraction. I'll just allow people to, I guess, come up with that, let them figure it out on their own. But I thought that was a very interesting thing, a very interesting angle to take when talking to the media for the first time since naming Sean Couturier captain. It's interesting. So we can now move back to what you want there, Ant.
Pot
if you
stirring
want.
much there, Russ?
It's not stirring the pot. I just think it's interesting that you talk about addition by
There was
subtraction.
another. I had there was something funny yesterday that that Torts had said too before the game. It had nothing to do with that. He just said how dumb today's players are.
Oh, that
He
was
actually,
great.
I mean, he actually
was great.
said, he goes, "Geez, I really miss." It was almost like, "Gee, I really miss when fucking guys weren't as dumb as they are today." That's what it was in his version of English.
You know what the best part about it was, though, Bundy, is that he tried to stop himself from saying it and then basically said, screw it, I'm going to just say it anyway.
Can't help himself.
Yeah,
I've never heard.
Here, I've got it. I've got it right here. Hold on. Let's
was
actually play it because this was
funny.
gold.
Yeah.
It actually was. I mean, this is gold. Here it is.
We'll get there eventually,
sorry.
huh, Russ?
There we go.
The younger generation, how has that changed from your perspective?
With the young athletes that are in our league right now, oh my God, it is. It's a different league. It's a different league in. I'm going to be really careful how I say it. I think there is. It's a dumb league. It is. It's changed for coaches too, and we've had to make adjustments because there are so many mistakes made. And I guess the thing with the young athletes is sometimes you have to wait your turn, right? As far as gaining respect and not wanting everything right now, not expecting everything right now as far as ice time, as far as your contract, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's good just to wait your turn and earn it. I think that's where I think the athletes have changed. They have entourages around them that I think direct them the wrong way. And the hierarchy of a room, the hierarchy of what it is to be a pro, the process you have to go through as a pro, I think's lost a little bit with the athlete now. And it's something I miss terribly in being in the league for so long, seeing where it's gone to now. Great athletes, great skill, great speed, but the mental and the understanding what it is to be a pro and respecting the National Hockey League, that's where I have some struggles.
All right, so Bundy, you were cackling there.
Oh, it was so good.
Can you, what was it that made you cackle, Bundy?
All I was thinking when he was saying it was, what would this guy have done with Allen Iverson and his posse?
I know,
I
right?
know.
That was
He's got
fucking
the-
20 years ago. Like, it's not like a psychology degree. I have 4 kids. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them still play in Division I basketball. They're actually older than some guys on the team. I happen to think they're outstanding and very, very bright. So I don't know. Maybe it's a sport thing. Maybe it's a gender thing. I don't know. But, I mean, that's hilarious. It basically, in plain English, folks, what he just said is, Yeah, I've watched the league a lot in the 20 years I coached, and there's just a bunch of dumb fucks. And I have to be a leader, and I have to teach them how to be young men so that they can be the best version of themselves. Everything's
Bundy,
different.
Did you have an entourage? Did you have an entourage as a player?
I never had. The only fucking entourage I had was a dog when I took it around the block for a ride. That was my entourage. I've never heard.
I'll be honest with you.
I still don't see the NHL player in the entourage. That one was the one that got me.
Yes.
I've never. I know NHL players. I've never known an entourage to ever clam around or follow around an NHL defenseman. Now, I don't know about star power up front. Maybe they've required and commanded posses now, but that wasn't for me. That's it.
That was the thing that kind of surprised me. It's like entourage, like in hockey. I don't think I've ever seen even the superstars of the league have an entourage that walks around with them. Like just don't. I mean, they're just hockey guys are just normal guys. Like it's weird that he said that. I'm like, really?
Is there a chance that he's referring to like a locker room clique?
No, I think what he means,
okay.
if you want my honest opinion, I think what he means is that there's a lot of people probably advising players these days, a lot more people on that side of things on how to go about their business on a daily basis than maybe ever before. I think individual players probably have, and Bundy, you would probably know this better than I do, but maybe they have their own you have your own personal trainers, and you have your own personal chefs or nutritionists or whatever that are outside of what the team is providing you. And I think that those kinds of things are probably what Torts is referring to. Of course, then you got your financial people as well who are also always telling you what to do and how to go about your business. So I think that's probably what he means by the entourage, as opposed to just a bunch of, hanger-ons who are just trying to hang around somebody who's got some money or is a little bit famous or whatever. I think it's a little bit different of an interpretation, but I think that's what he's going for.
And the other part too, though, is that, like talking about giving guys, they want everything right away and they expect everything right away. Well, because the league's set up now to give them everything right away.
Yeah.
So, again, nobody has to fucking earn anything anymore. You come in and you get $40 million tossed at you after 3 years if you got marginal numbers. I mean, no wonder. And the guy's 21 or 22, so you can't really go bitching about it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what brings upon that perceived attitude is glory and finance.
Well, and the expansion of the league,
ultimately.
Well, the expansion of the league, Bundy, I think, has created an environment where, we always talk about all these extra jobs that are now there that weren't there before.
God.
And so, but what that does is that creates an environment for players to come into the league at a younger age and be asked to do more at this level than they ever would have before. And so when you have that, I think that's where that level of entitlement now starts to come in a little bit, because you come into the league now at 19, 20, 21, and you're being asked to play bigger minutes. And now it's like, well, shit, I'm 21 years old and I'm one of the best players on my team, and they think that I'm a superstar, and well, then I need to be treated a certain way. And how dare you think to bench me if you don't think I'm playing well? Don't you know who I am? I think that's the kind of thing that has been born out of this more than anything else. And I think that's kind of where this all comes to play, right?
Yeah, and I am an old school. Like I actually echo what Torts says sometimes. It's just how he kind of says it openly, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, there's a societal shift, and that's why I understand everything he's saying. Guys coming in and having egos. Remember, I traveled with these guys afterwards, so I've seen a lot of different generations of players, and it is different. There's no doubt about it, because guys used to come in and there was such an honor playing in the league and just making it. Now there's so many jobs, like it's like everybody gets a shot, and that is what it is. You're right, Anthony. I think you make a very fair point there, which I didn't consider, is that, guys come up, there's too many jobs, too much expectation for the amount of actual bodies that they can have do those jobs, because some guys just can't do them good enough. And quite frankly, most of them, that's the case with a lot of them.
It's, the interesting thing is going to be to see whether or not, like I see a lot of people in the comments that are, saying that they think it was a veiled shot at Gauthier for having so many people potentially in his ear in the total 180 that he did from wanting to be a Flyer to not wanting to even answer a phone call or meet with anybody from the organization. And, I think the real conversation to have here at some point is going to be like, there's a chance that hockey culture is going to change, and it's going to start to look more and more like what you see in the NBA and what you see in the NFL, right? And like the concept of player empowerment, like it at some point is bound to happen, right? Like the good old fashioned hockey culture isn't going to be able to stand the test of time with this thing, right? And the way that players are empowered to advocate for themselves, and they need the reasons why and all that, like at some point it's going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot more. And I'm starting to wonder if top picks, like, are we going to start to see that ego? Are we going to start to see that, willingness to be outspoken? Are we going to start hearing more from the player agents? Are there going to be more complaints when a guy gets sent down or a guy doesn't make the NHL roster from, for opening day? I think that might be like where things start to head, and how do teams react,
Yeah, I'll tell you this, and Bundy, maybe you can attest to this as someone who's played with the guy. But I think we're going to see more and more now with the way things are with college sports in U.S. and the way it is with the these players that come in feeling entitled, and we saw it here with this just last month with the Gauthier thing, that we're going to find more and more star caliber prospects who are going to tell teams, "Don't draft me. I don't want to play for you." And
yeah, you know what?
It's going to be like the Lindros thing.
Yeah, and you know what? You're and you're right. But the thing is, the more guys you have, like where you get the prima donna, the Flyers traded to Anaheim. The thing is, when you have a situation like that creates its own story, and it allows other guys to create a narrative around that too. If you don't like where you're at, I mean, I really think you're right, Anthony. Like, when does it come a point where guys are like, you know what? I'm not playing in Canada.
Yeah.
Seriously, like that would be the one. I'm just sorry, I'm not playing in Canada, no matter what. So I'll either sit out or you trade me. That's a problem for real teams, because I mean, there are really small market teams up there, or even here, like someone says, hey, I don't like the look of Buffalo. I don't want to go play in Buffalo.
Yeah, and this is a great point from longtime follower BJ Beretta, and it's really, really smart what he's saying. He says there was a study about how Gen Z views sports. They follow favorite players as opposed to teams. In other sports, players dictate where to play. I think that is bleeding into young hockey players, player over team. And he's 1,000% right.
100%. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's become more about the individual in this generation than it has been about the team. And I think that's, we've maybe not seen it happen in hockey as much because hockey has been always the ultimate team sport, right? But we've seen it in basketball, we've seen it in football, we've seen it a little bit in baseball, we see it in soccer, right? Yep. I mean, you saw the whole news with Kylian Mbappe that came out about how he's
look at you,
look at me knowing my soccer stuff going on, right?
No, but it's true, Ant. Back when I was teaching, I taught in a high school, right? And I always used to say this to you: the weirdest thing was that you wouldn't see Sixers jerseys everywhere, right? Like you would see some Sixers jerseys, but then you'd see a Steph Curry jersey, or you'd see a Kevin Durant jersey, or you'd see a LeBron jersey. And it's like, it seemed like foreign, the whole concept of not having your team's jersey. Like same thing with football teams. It's it's going to continue to happen. And like, again, you mentioned with soccer, but like soccer is like the perfect one, right? Because guys get moved so frequently that like you'll see a Ronaldo jersey from Real Madrid, and then all of a sudden, and
they're like mercenaries.
Wrong, but
they're mercenaries. That's exactly what they are when it comes to it. And they do whatever they want. I mean, guys making that kind of money to go play in like Saudi Arabia or wherever they in Dubai. I mean, it's insane. Yep. But again, the loyalty, that's why it's important when you get a guy that loves to play in a certain city, you're passionate about it. That's so important. That's so important to have a guy that has those good values, and I think a lot of NHL, like guys, I think they have kids that play. I think a lot of them have those good values still. That's why there's a lot more guys playing, and a lot more offspring are playing sports now. But I'll tell you what, there is that entitlement thing. I do understand Torts' frustration with that. But at the same time, there's not a whole lot you could do with it because the rules dictate that it's a younger guys league now, and they pay these guys, all of them. So that's nothing you can do about that. Unfortunately, that's human nature that comes into play afterwards.
Yeah, and there was a really good comment up here, and I think this will probably be proposed at some point. Once teams start getting burned, once guys start saying they're not going to play for certain teams, Michael DiGennaro says on YouTube, if this is going to happen, they need to make a rule where a team owns a player's rights indefinitely after being drafted. I'm sure that at some point a team will propose it. The Players Association will have a absolute conniption. There's almost no chance it happens.
It doesn't matter though, because if the player goes, so let's say that they say that's fine and everything. So let's say the guy gets. I'm from Ottawa. All right, now I'm not. If I were a modern day player, I would be my preference to not play in Canada. It's not because of the finances or how they. I mean, taxes. Yes, you get paid in American dollars. It's the travel for me going through the airports. That's a huge reason. When you get treated like gold and you're getting all these great flights on the stuff where you pull up the tarmac and then you got to go park your car at the airport in Toronto, go through, hopefully there is a process, but when you go back, you got to go right through the customs terminal. So that would be one of the reasons. But there is absolutely reasons why players won't play in Canada. And I'm telling you right now, Russ, that even if you did that, you could still tell the team if they drafted you for a team like Ottawa and say, you know what? I don't care what you say. I'm still not playing here. So if you're a first-round pick and you're a high first-round pick, the team's got no choice but to trade you because you're their asset. So either way you do it, the player, that's what it'll come to. And it's all it takes is a player and his agent and family to have enough balls to say, you know what, Ottawa, I love Parliament Hill and the canal. It's beautiful, but I'm not living there. So you can trade me or I'm not going to play. And then that'll be up to the team to then say, what do we do? I hope this doesn't become a mainstay or something that happens regularly.
Yeah.
But it will. Yeah, I promise you it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
And it's not just hockey. I think it's going to happen across all sport.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're going to see it in basketball and football and baseball as well. But yes, I think that's where we're headed. I really do. And it's a shame.
Hell, we saw it, a decade, almost 2 decades ago. Eli Manning said he didn't want to play for the Chargers, and they still drafted him anyway, right? And then they dealt him to the Giants, right?
They had that deal in place.
I know, but I'm saying that we have seen it before, where a high prospect, a sure to be
back to John Elway in football. I mean, that happened in the early '80s. The Colts, and he didn't want to play with the Colts. He ended up getting traded to Denver. I mean, it happens. It happens in baseball. You don't get traded so much. What ends up happening is you just don't sign. A team drafts you, and then you don't sign, and you go back in the draft a second time, right? I mean, that's usually what happens in baseball.
Anthony, and the other thing too, right, with you, Anthony, with baseball is that deal that Ohtani signed, right, with the Dodgers. I know we're not talking. I'm not talking about baseball, but how many more of those type of deals are going to come? Like that,
they defer the money. Where the
state of California has lost their fucking marbles, right, because they can't get their tax money out of that contract.
Yeah,
right. So, because that was in all honesty, that was a really smart thing from Ohtani and his agents to sit there, basically say, we'll defer all that money. He'll be fine until then, and then by that point, he won't be living in California anymore, so he won't get taxed on that money. So that therefore he can keep a lot more of it as opposed to having it taxed now. So that was actually a pretty smart move by his representatives.
It's pretty bananas. It was very smart. And at some point, I have to imagine that baseball is going to close that loophole because it never should have been opened in the first place.
Yeah. The poor guy's got to live on $2 million a year. I mean,
what a shame. What a shame. Guys, I'm assuming that you're going to understand this reference, but we saw David Waitman tweeted this at us and said that we need to redo this poster with us on it. So did you guys watch Entourage? Let me start there.
Of course. Yeah.
Bundy, did you watch Entourage when it was on TV?
Of course. Of course.
So who's who?
We need to put the organ player in there. He's kind of one of us now.
You're right. He's one of us.
I love when he gets questions about our show. That's the best part about it. He's sitting there playing the organ, and people are walking up to him to ask, "Where's Bundy? See. Is Bundy going to come back?"
Dude, I love that organ player, dude. What's his name? Do we know his name?
I believe his name is Michael.
Just, hey. Dude, I do
He's
love,
great
like,
guy.
he's absolutely become part of the Snow the Goalie whack
I mean,
pack.
he was in the middle of playing on the organ, and that woman who, I mean, you got to hang out with her and her husband afterwards, Bundy, which was awesome. But she just walked up to him in the middle of him playing to ask when you were coming back. So that they could meet you and do it. And like he's sitting there and he's playing on the organ and she's trying to get his attention. And he finally stops and he comes over to me and Russ. He's like, when is Bundy coming back?
Yeah.
This woman wants to meet him.
She kept calling him baby. So I thought it was his girlfriend or wife or whatever. And I said, you don't know her? He's like, no, I have no idea who she is. She kept going, baby. When's Bundy coming back? She was wasted. We have some answers here very early. Brandon Vicara says that I have to clearly be E, as does Sean. Joe Horakovsky says that intern Andrew is turtle.
Yeah.
Andrew Fawcett disagrees, says that the organ player has to be turtle. John Hauser says Torts is Ari Gold. I don't think he's allowed. He's not in our entourage.
That's right. Not in our
Not allowed.
He doesn't like
Not allowed.
entourages.
No, he's not. He's not a big fan. Eric H says that Bundy is definitely Johnny Drama. HC asks why Charlie O'Connor's on the far right in the picture.
It does look like
There is a
Charlie
little.
bit.
You know what?
A little bit of a Charlie resemblance.
Somebody
there.
tweet this at Charlie O'Connor. Let him know that he looks like E. I never made that connection. That was actually pretty good. Brandon thinks that Bundy is Vinny. Joe Horakovsky thinks that Ant is Vinny. I like that there's a disagreement here. All right, so we're gonna have to. We need Corn Pop to do the Photoshop.
Yeah, do the Photoshop.
I think that's where we're at now. Yeah.
You got to Photoshop the entourage photo.
Yeah.
We got to get the organ player. We got to get a headshot of him next game.
Yeah. And then we'll
He's joining
put it
us
together.
as an
I wonder if they have it on their site somewhere.
I found him. I actually looked for him because
great guy.
Westchester, right? The connection.
Yeah, Westchester connection. But here's really quick, really funny thing. He's the organ player at St. John's in Hatboro, and I thought he meant St. John Bosco, which is where my father-in-law is the deacon. So we're talking. I'm talking to a friend of his who I guess knows him from church. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize that he was the organ player. I didn't know I didn't think he was. And so then we start talking. He's like, no, St. John's across the street. Who decides to put St. John's across the street from St. John Bosco? It doesn't make any sense. And I think the one is like a Protestant church. So I'm even more confused. But anyway. Ed Coleman asks who's going to do the spreadsheet. I think Allison's going to have to.
Allison's going to have to do the,
Allison is our...
Make a new page, Allison.
She's our czar of spreadsheets or something, right? So I think we hit everything that we wanted to hit today, right?
Well, we didn't really go over the play on Coots.
The Coots slash, the two-hand slash to the knee and no penalty called.
Yeah.
Not getting a lot of respect early on as the captain, huh?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was Tyler Bertuzzi that took a two-hand swipe across his knee, and if you watch the replay, I can't believe it wasn't called a penalty, and then B, I'd be a little bit surprised if he doesn't get a call from the league. I mean, you can hear Coots yell out in pain over this. I mean, Bundy, did you get to see the replay of it? I mean, it took him out of the game. He didn't play the whole last 6 minutes of the game in already overtime.
Heavy chop. You know what's funny? I mean, again, I always said Jason Mertitas asked me in the Flyer pregame last night, what memories do you have of Toronto? And I said, right off the cap, I said that we had to kill 2 more penalties a game than they did when we played there.
Yeah.
So last night on the same play, he started laughing. But what was funny was that if you watch the game last night, there was 2 high sticks missed by Toronto players on Flyers players in the third period, and I'm like, you know what? That's just fucking typical. Like the ref, we didn't see it. We're in Toronto, we didn't see it. But then there was a play later where the Flyers actually got away with one. And the rest put the whistle away. So I thought it was kind of a makeup because it could have been at a really interesting time in the game. Yeah, I mean that was a bad one. I'm sure, and I think anytime you get something like a heavy chop like that when you're not seeing it or back of the legs, I absolutely think it'll have to be reviewed. Who was that Bertuzzi that took the chop? Yeah,
it was Bertuzzi.
yeah, and he can't score at all. Like they were giving it to him last night on the TSN broadcast, apparently because just can't score. He's got no confidence. Yeah, I would think that would be worthy of a call. 100%. You know, those are the ones. Those are the plays that you want to take away from out of the game, right? Like the stupidity and make guys pay for it. One thing I did love last night, which we don't see enough of, that hit by Benoit last night on Cam York. That was a great hit.
Great hit.
And I mean, I just want people to understand that that's the kind of hit that we advocate for. We think is fine. You got to keep your head up sometimes. You can't just go in like that. And I think that you know he's got 160 some hits. I just want people to know that there's still room for physicality and good, clean hits. And I know that didn't end well for York in that, but there has to be times where there's physicality in the game because that's what
that was the play where Delorier stepped in.
Yes,
right.
He did. That's what changed the game a little bit. Yeah,
yeah. And they talked about that after the game. I think Sanheim was asked about it. He was asked like if the Delorier fight helped to kind of get things going. He was like, yeah, 100%. And I guess, listen, I was about as critical as I think all three of us were to some extent, about the Delorier signing. My problem really was the no movement clause because it was insane. But Delorier did exactly what you expect a guy in his role to do, especially as it pertains to protecting the younger guys on the team. To have somebody on the ice who can step in, step up. And even though, as Bundy said, it was a clean hit, it didn't end well. York got hurt. Delorier did exactly what he's supposed to do. And so, like, there you go. Like, to the people who, I guess, shit on the idea of having a guy like that on the team, that's exactly why, especially as a rebuilding team that's going to lean so much on youth, why it is valuable to have a guy like that on the ice to, you know, hold the opposition accountable. So, was there anything else that you wanted to get to here, Ant? Are you champing at the bit for anything?
Well, no, to wrap it up. But, I mean, you didn't, just because you promote it, I figure it's worth probably doing something on it. You did say that you wanted to talk about Laughton trade scenario in the promo tweet.
I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, but you know, you wrote about it. Well, you mentioned it earlier, but you wrote about it on Crossing Broad that there's a team in the division that has inquired about Scott Laughton. We know that there were about 3 teams, I want to say, in the offseason that were interested in him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, if you want to name drop the team, but
no.
It's certainly interesting that there's a team in the division that is looking to obviously fortify what is probably going to be a playoff team. You're not going to go after the guy if you're a bottom feeder, so unless you're Buffalo.
Yeah, no. The question is going to be how much teams are willing to pay, because the information that I had originally gotten, and came from outside the Flyers organization. And then I had to check it with the Flyers organization. And when I checked with people in the Flyers organization, they confirmed that they had been talking to the team, but they said that the report of what was offered was not accurate. So I'm leaving that part out of it. But yes, there is conversation that is happening, and I'm not 100% sure where Scott Laughton's future is. And I think that it's important that we note that when, like, little things, there are little things that you can pick up on in conversations, right? That are public. And when Torts was asked about the new leadership group, he talked about Couturier, he talked about TK, he didn't talk about Laughton. Now, granted, Laughton had a letter in advance. Before that, you could sit there and say, well, that's why he didn't talk about him, because he was already a guy with a letter. I get it. But you talked about this brand new leadership group. You would think that it would at least be something that would be said about the guy, about how, you know, and he's keeping the A because he's been such a great leader for us for all this time, blah, blah, blah. And then he did say there are other leaders in that room, not just these guys. And so, like, it kind of, when you start putting things together, you kind of realize that they're probably going to move on from Laughton if they get the right return. Mm-hmm. What I was originally told, I could say this, was that this team had offered this Metro Division team had offered a first-round pick. I was then told by someone in the Flyers organization that was absolutely 100% not true, that they were not offered a first-round pick. But if it gets there, I think that the Flyers take that deal. So, yeah.
Do you think they'd be open to a second and a change of scenery guy, kind of like the Giroux deal that ended up netting you Owen Tippett? Like that,
well,
that would seem to.
Yes, I mean, Giroux, they got it first, but
I know they got it first, but I'm saying I'm saying the part of that, the change of scenery, the guy that hasn't developed the same way. Like, do you think they'd rather go for a guy who has proven that they can play at the NHL level, but maybe has underwhelmed, and take that with a second if that's the best available, or do you think that they hold out for the first because they view the first as being so much more valuable?
I guess it depends on what year the first is, Russ, right? I mean, if you're talking about a team that's at the back end of the first round in 24, that first round pick is not as valuable as, say, a first round pick in 25 if it might be a little bit higher up the draft, right? So, there's some interesting conversations going on, and I'm not 100. I think that there's enough out there with teams that are interested, and they maybe just haven't gotten to the point where the Flyers are comfortable saying that's a deal we'll take. But as the deadline approaches, those offers are going to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And I think Danny is smart playing that waiting game a little bit. And especially if you see Laughton start to play better, which he has in the last few games, he's played pretty well. I think that will only increase his value. Going into the deadline.
Buddy, there were two questions earmarked for you here.
I'm going to answer them both. I see them both about yes, I was mentioned in trade rumors, but I don't know. But again, different back then. Rumors are one thing, and where they come out of, whether or not they're sourced or not, is two different things. But yes, I heard my name, and it bothered me. Sure. I especially after my first few years when you made it home here. So, but I ended up going like a long time without it. So. That was pretty cool. The other thing is, does it shake up a room? You get close to your teammates and guys that you become friends with. You get to know their families and stuff, and you go to battle with these guys. 3 nights a week. So, it sucks. It absolutely does. That's the human side of it. But at the same time, if there's another opportunity for a guy like that. And an opportunity for him to move on and maybe have a better chance, you're going to be happy for that guy also. But at the same time, miss him. If I see Kakko and Lafreniere
and 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, no less. People are now thinking like Kakko. Like if the Rangers gave Kakko for Laughton, I would have to ask why. Because I know I know his numbers are way down like Kakko, but I mean he was still like the number 2 overall pick not long ago. He was a star in the World Junior Tournament, and I'm not sure if that – like you talk about a guy that needs a change of scenery. The problem is he was the number 2 overall pick. He wasn't the number 22 overall pick that needs a change of scenery. That's an interesting one, and I don't have enough time left in the day to talk about that one. But the Rangers are interesting with their young guys because their young guys are not the meat and potatoes of their team. It's their veteran guys that really are. So, the 1 and 2 pick in Lafreniere and Kakko, they're not – like Crosby and Malkin at all. So anyway.
Makes sense. Yeah, but I think that especially in a rebuild, and I think that if somehow you were offered Kakko for Laughton, that's probably
you say yes in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Like you don't even go back to your people.
Yeah. 100%.
Like you just take it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens here, but I
don't think that would happen by any.
I think it's probably safe to say, guys, that the trade deadline is going to be interesting this year. I don't expect that we're going to have a GM who talks about how hard it is to make trades, or who tells us that he made a lot of calls. Right? I think that they're probably going to have to make some painful calls. The last thing I wanted to get here before we head out, and it really does pertain to the trade deadline. Rasmus Ristolainen had garnered some interest from other teams, and he's now hurt. And it doesn't sound like he's coming back this weekend as they originally hoped he would.
Certainly not coming back this weekend.
But the initial report was minor injury. Hope is that he's back for the weekend, and he's not. If teams were interested in him, I'm not saying that this injury is going to take them totally out, but if he can't be moved at the deadline, that might fundamentally change some of the other moves, right? Like if they were hoping to get off of his cap hit and then maybe re-sign a Walker, does this now change the calculus where they say, well, shit, if we can get something of value for Walker, now we have to consider taking it because we can't move Risto? Like, is that a pretty safe line of thinking?
Yeah, it's a tough. It would be really tough for them to sign Sean Walker to a new contract at the number that he's looking at, which is similar to what Risto is making currently, and have Risto's contract on the books at the same time. They can't. I don't see how it's possible. Even talking to some people with the team, like there's not a way around that. There's not a way for both of them to exist at the same time. Mm-hmm. So if you are insistent upon finding a way to keep Sean Walker, you have to move Risto's contract. And so with Risto being out, you probably can't sign Walker, and so therefore you probably have to get an asset in return in a trade for him. Unless you just sit there and say, look, we're willing to just lose him in the offseason because he's going to get that money, right? Yeah. Or we'll take the other that is the only other option. The only other option is maybe you can move Risto in the offseason, and there's interest in him around the league. This is not like, nobody likes Rasmus Ristolainen. There is interest in him. And the belief from other teams is that, okay, well, the Flyers are willing to move it. Maybe we talk to them in June, right before the draft, and make a trade and get that kind of player. And maybe so if you're Danny, maybe you take a gamble and say, you know what, we're going to hold on to Sean Walker, get through, see how far we go this year, don't trade him. And then if we can move Risto come June, then we maybe say to Sean Walker, hey, you really flourished here. You did well here. We like you. Sign with us before July 1st because we have exclusive negotiating rights with the guy until July 1. Sign with us. We'll give you that contract that you're looking for. So that is a possibility still that's out there, but that you're kind of gambling that you can do that and get that done before July 1 if you don't trade him prior to March 8th. And so that's the internal debate that they're having right now as to what to do in that regard.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. Bundy, anything you want to plug? Do you have anything coming up that you want to promote?
Oh, as always, anybody struggling with any kind of addiction issues, mental health, you can reach us at PennsylvaniaRecoveryCenter.com. Or Bundy Recovery on Facebook. Sometimes we get people, and I get like hidden messages come across. So if we ever miss you, I always tell you, just Google Pennsylvania Recovery Center. We have multiple locations in the area that are all conveniently located for anybody struggling with addiction or mental health issues. Thanks.
That's awesome stuff. And then the last thing here before we head out is that we have the live show coming up on March 16th at La Sicilia down in Oxford, PA. Mm-hmm. Big old Italian buffet. It's going to be a great night. We're doing the press road show for Flyers versus Bruins. Make sure you get your tickets today. Shop.snowthegoalie.com. While you're there, pick up some of the great merch that we have available on the site. But massive Italian buffet. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's pretty much like having dinner and a show.
Style buffet. We're going to have a great buffet, me and Anthony. We're going to slobber on down some of the baked ziti I didn't know existed until I came to Philly. And we're going to have a parm. We're going to have sausage. All kinds of great food. Come down to La Sicilia and I'll talk about hockey with you all night long. How great I am.
The one thing, Hitch, there won't be any bagels there, unfortunately.
No bagels.
No bagels.
It's not a breakfast.
Not a breakfast
buffet.
Not a breakfast buffet. That feeling when you dip into the baked ziti and you don't blow on it first. When you get to the dessert line and all the tiramisu's gone.
So good.
When you realize that all of the lasagna that was supposed to be out is gone, and you look at the person serving it, and you say, "Excuse me, is there going to be any more lasagna?" And all they say to you
Not
is,
answering your questions.
"We'll figure it out. We're going to figure it out. We'll figure it out together." La Sicilia, March 16th. It's going to be a great time. A big thank you to them for hosting us for that live show. Again, shop.snowthegoalie.com. And a big thank you to our friends at Pack Horse Moving. Don't forget, use promo code SNOW to get $77 off your next move. Spread the word. And if you know anybody who's going to move, tell them. Seriously, $77 off. And they will outdo, I don't know, I'd say virtually any other moving company that you try to get a price from. So big thank you to Pack Horse Moving for sponsoring the show. And of course, a massive thank you to everybody who joined us here on the live feed, on the live stream, on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Guys, just looking ahead to what the Flyers have coming up over the next week. You know, they pick up the point on the road against Toronto. They are back in action on Saturday against the Devils. I don't know. Are we going to do a morning after on Sunday? What are your thoughts?
It ain't going to be at 8:30.
No, Sunday we can do a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll probably do a morning after on Sunday morning, not super early, maybe like 10-ish.
Yeah.
10-ish work for you guys?
Yeah.
So we'll figure that one out. And then they are on the road against the Blackhawks next Wednesday. And they have I'm an idiot. Tomorrow's game is the Stadium Series game.
Yeah.
So it'll be a late one. We are not going to be there.
Can you clip up that line right there that you just said?
What?
Just so we have that as a drop.
I'm an idiot?
I'm an idiot. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I could do that.
Snip that one.
Listen, there have been a lot of questions about if we were going to go up and do the game. We are not. The NHL handles the credential requests. We did not submit them. We were trying to get a setup to do the press road show.
Right.
And I know that there was a lot of frustration with like how the league was handling some of the stuff. So we just ultimately said it's not worth the hassle.
Yeah, it's just that it was just to kind of give a. I mean, I don't want to go too far behind the scenes, but it's just too much of a pain in the rear end for us to get set up there, and we can't actually do it in the press box itself because there's so many media around, and it would be very distracting for everybody else to have the three of us sitting there blabbering on during the game, right? I mean, so
how the hell could we be seen as distracting? It's not like.
Can you imagine something like that happening, and all the national writers sitting there trying to type on their laptops and stuff? So yeah, so because of that, because we couldn't set up there, it didn't make any sense for us to go up and just be.
I think our only other choice, I think, would have been out on the concourse. So we would have been sitting out
in 14-degree weather.
In 14-degree weather, and if we have a hard time getting intern Andrew to,
I didn't see that. Is that what the weather's going to be?
It's supposed to snow too.
With the wind chill, it's going to be about 14. I think it's going to be like 26 or something like that. 27.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal. Anybody who's going down to the game, we wish you the best. We hope you have a really great time, but we will not be there for that. So we'll talk to you all on Sunday morning, and then we'll figure out a time that we'll do the show again next week. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we look forward to talking to everybody on Sunday. So for Ant, who's on Twitter at AntSanPhilly, for Bundy, who's on Twitter at CTerrien6, I'm Russ on Twitter at JoyOnBroad. Thank you so much for listening to, maybe even watching, Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. We will talk to all of you on Sunday morning. Bye, everybody.